Hey, how y'all doing today? I'm Anthony. You're watching Palmetto Prepared. Today we're going to do an episode of Tiz Biz, things you should be stashing. And it's going to be on dark chocolate. Now, the 3 points I wanted to hit on are going to be nutritional profile, storageability, and why I keep this in my preps and why I think it's so important to stash them. So let's go ahead and get started. Now, first things first, we have to talk about the difference between dark chocolate and milk chocolate. Look at the name, milk chocolate. That's what it's got in there. It's got milk. So it's going to really drastically decrease the shelf life, and you're not going to get quite as many nutrients in there because you're not using as much cocoa because you're putting milk in there. And with the more cocoa you have, the more bitter it's going to be. So that's just the main difference you have between dark chocolate and milk chocolate. Milk chocolate's more sweet, dark chocolate's more bitter. Keep that part in mind. But for the nutrition profile, nutrient profile, why can't I say that word? We're looking at 70% cocoa, just because it's a good middle ground between them. And the trace minerals you're going to get is going to be, it's very loaded up in iron, magnesium, copper, manganese, potassium, phosphorus, zinc, and selenium. I feel like we're doing a periodic table. But we're going to talk about 50 grams here, 50 grams of 70%. And in there is going to be 310 calories, 23 grams of that is going to be fat, and 5 grams of fiber. So those are the two main things I really wanted to get through with the nutrient profile. The 23 grams of fat, some of it being saturated, is very important because saturated fat is going to be a little bit more shelf stable, and you're going to need it, especially if you are in a grid down or whatever scenario. You're going to need your fats, and you're going to need a lot of calories, especially storing calories in a very small spot. So 310 calories in 50 grams, which is basically like 3 squares. I think it's 5 blocks of this is going to be your 50 grams. So 310 calories for that, absolutely amazing, especially how small this is in comparison. You can get four days worth basically out of that, so, or 3. But 23 grams of fat, especially saturated fat, is going to be amazing. And another thing is fiber. 5 grams of fiber. Now that's a lot in comparison to a lot of stuff, and especially if you are in a grid down scenario and you have a stash, most likely going to be canned food, and it's going to probably be lacking in fiber. So you're going to need some fiber. So that's why another reason why you have dark chocolate is it's going to give you that fiber so you can kind of move things along, if you catch my drift. So that's another big one. And a lot of people don't realize that dark chocolate has caffeine in it. And caffeine is very important, especially in older times before we had soda and coffee everywhere. And it was just basically tea was used for caffeine. Now you can get caffeine from some plants out there. If you can stash away some dark chocolate to give you caffeine, aces. And caffeine and theobromine, which are in dark chocolate, are good at releasing endorphins, improving mood, and mental clarity. So you might be a little bit sharper. I mean, it's obviously going to be a short-lived effect of caffeine, but when no one has it and you do, it's going to be kind of a, one-up kind of thing. So just keep that in mind. It's very good for that. And dark chocolate isn't very standardized, so depending on the brand and type of bean and where they get the bean from, how old the bean is, that kind of stuff is going to determine the potency of caffeine. That's why it's never advertised. But in 50 grams of 70% cocoa, you're most likely going to get 20 to 50 milligrams of caffeine, which can range anywhere from a little thing of green tea all the way up to a can of soda, maybe half a cup of coffee. So it's not going to be a major dose of caffeine like an energy drink like I drink all the time, but it will be enough. You will notice it. Now when it comes to storing, the standard that I want to say is this has a expiration date of September 2021, so basically 2 years from now. But it's usually going to last between 2 to 5 years depending on how you store it. Obviously sun and heat are going to degrade it faster, but bars are going to be a little bit less shelf stable than the powder. Now you can get the powder. This is Special Dark 100% cacao. It's spelled cacao, but I call it cocoa, just so we're all on the same page here. I'm just going to call it cocoa. So just put that out there. But this is 100%. You're obviously not going to eat a spoonful of this because it's going to be way too bitter. So you're going to most likely cut this into, say, muffins or oatmeal, that kind of thing, just to kind of give you a little bit of a boost. The benefits of this. But the best part about powdered is it's a lot more shelf stable, and they've actually done a lot of, experiments on this kind of powder to where it will last 6 years past the expiration date. This thing expires March 2022, so it's most likely going to be good until 2028 as long as it's sealed in its original container. Now if you take this out of here, put in Mylar with oxygen absorbers, you're going to get some really hardcore shelf life out of this. So this is definitely going to be a good food to stash away for a good long period of time. You can, it's very shelf stable because it doesn't have any water in it, especially this. There's no water in there for bacteria to grow and, have kind of unsafe with bacteria. It's most likely going to be a degradation of the cacao itself or cocoa itself, and the potency is just not going to be there, and it's going to start just degrading in taste. So the longer you store, the less potent everything's going to be, and the less benefits you're going to get from there. But it does have a very long shelf life in comparison to a lot of other things, especially a lot of other treats. So that's one thing I really wanted to mention here in terms of long-term storage. That brings me to my final point. Why do I stash it and why do I keep it in my prepper pantry? And it's simple. Because it is a morale booster. Now, I'm a foodie, I'm a fat kid, I love me some food and I love chocolate. And if I'm in a bad mood, being able to, take a little bit of chocolate, it'll put me in a really good mood. So being able to just walk inside, grab it, take a bite, and just instantly start improving your mood. Obviously, like I said, releasing endorphins with the caffeine and whatnot is going to be a huge bonus in terms of a grid down, SHTF, even natural disaster scenario, because you were able to improve your mood and positive thinking. So I come from a military mindset. If you have a squad leader over here who's got a positive mental attitude, and you have one over here with a negative mental attitude, obviously there's going to be a huge difference in how they work. The negative guy is most likely going to be blaming people for bad things happening. The positive guy is going to make things happen. So a simple, I know it sounds very cliche, but positive mental attitude can move mountains. And which in reality it really can. Like a positive mental attitude, especially in a grid down survival situation, can be the difference in if you are going to succeed or if you're not going to succeed. So having something, if I can put something in my pantry that can really help me maintain a positive attitude or at least give me a quick morale boost, boom, I'm going to do it all day. So that's why me personally, I stash it. Not to mention the long shelf life is really going to help out. And if you have enough room in your area and you can stash a lot of it, it could be amazing as a barter item. Because you got to imagine back in the colonial pre-Civil War times, chocolate with trade the way it was very hard to come by, and the rich really only had it. So you can imagine how important it would be to everybody who's had chocolate these days and they know they like it. If they can't get their hands on it, what they would do for it. So that could be dangerous, but it could also be very beneficial in terms of trading. So just another thing to throw out there. I hope you learned something from this video. If you did, please give me a thumbs up. Subscribe to the channel if you haven't, and I will catch y'all later, okay? Bye.